Well, you know me, it had to be a little boo hoo hoo, or it wouldn't be me. I'm a crier. Oh my gosh, cat food commercials, anything. I'm a crier. If you think that was bad, you should have been here the actual morning that I finished it. I woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning, couldn't go back to sleep, got up and I typed 3 words and cry. I typed 2 more words and cry. It was very when I realized that I'm actually writing the last words of my book. It was very, very emotional. Um, and because number two, why it meant so. Of course, it meant so much to me because of my life's work, and it also meant a lot to me because I that's an ACOA trait that we have so many um, pokers in the fire. We never finish anything. And to have completed something like that on my birthday and to be finally done with something I had worked on, might as well say all my life, it was very, very emotional. And I will never forget that morning as long as I live. But it is time to move on. And this is all I have of the new book. I'll show you how many pages. It's nothing. Well, okay. I think I talked about it before. Um, that I changed it, the name to a German word that means kind of twilight, kind of that moment where it's light and dark, like that kind of purpley, weird, kind of twilighty moment. There's a German word for it. I thought that would be a very good name for a book. So that's why I got to figure out how to say it first. So maybe I'll call a friend of mine and ask her how to say it. Um, what I think I've touched on it before. I've always wanted to write something about World War II, but I don't have the expertise to. Oh, and this isn't fur. This is not fur. I changed because I wanted something 1940-ish, to start on this, but this is not fur. Um, I always wanted to write something about World War II. I have a trillion books about World War II. I used to read a lot of Holocaust stuff. I can't handle a lot of that stuff now. I used to could read it. It didn't bother me, but I guess as I'm getting older, it starts to bother me a little bit more. Um, but I think it's going to be very difficult to write because, like I said, I want two different things going on at the same time. I want what's going on in Paris to be separate from what's going on in the camp. Um, when I first started, and I thought, wait, fiction was a way to show uh, what I learned and my perceptions of what I learned without being a scholastic kind of book because of course I am by no means an expert and by no means qualified to write anything about that. Um, so it's two different stories that are going to be going on. It's going to be like, will you stop, Zanzibar? You just ate. Um, I wanted two different stories to go along, and I think I've touched upon how it began, how the male character, the German officer character began. Um, I think I said it before. The mistake I had made was I wanted him likable. I wanted him not dangerous. I wanted the readers to think, oh, he's a nice guy. He's just caught up in. Will you stop? He's just caught up in circumstances. Stop. Um, I didn't hurt him. I just told him to stop. Uh, the He's just caught up in the circumstances. Poor little Pooh. He's in uh like I said, he's in North Africa. He doesn't know anything about anything, you know. So he basically, and I made her be a, um, trying to think. Well, they meet in the desert, and she's been to an orphanage taking food and these kind of things. Her truck breaks down. Of course, he goes back to his. They help her, and his driver starts her truck and everything for her. He goes back to um find out that she actually runs the brothel. In that's in the town. She actually runs the brothel. Um, and he shows up one night and goes, "Hey, well, we can talk about this here. We can talk about this back in headquarters." She's like, "Okay," and that's how it starts. How that one ended basically was um he has to go. He just has to leave. They're pulling out of North Africa, and basically he just says, "Hey, I gotta go." Um, she but and they meet again. They say, after the war, blah blah blah, let's meet in Canada. I forgot where they say they're gonna meet. Probably, I don't know. And they actually do meet up again. They meet up again. Um, the next version, they're in Paris because, of course, they couldn't be in Berlin because there wouldn't be a black entertainer still, the American black entertainer still there once the war began, of course. So and at first I thought maybe she could be in Berlin and then have to leave, but I thought that's going to get too complicated. That's going to get too weird. So what I decided was that she was in Paris, and that's how she meets him in occupied Paris. Now he's a little more of an edge to him. It's kind of suggested that he's done some things that weren't very nice. I can't remember. I don't think she had. Yeah, she has the little girl. She has a daughter, but I'm not sure if um her lover is that she has the baby by is Jewish at this point. I don't remember. How they meet is that he's kind of like nepotism. He's got this, he's a rich playboy kind of man, and he gets stationed in Paris. Nepotism. He gets stationed in Paris. One of the little side thing. Oh, what he does is, he likes her. She's a entertainer because at the time I was doing a lot of plays and stuff when I was really working this out. So of course I made her be an entertainer in this nightclub, and she's respected, and all the guys like her and all the guys want her, and she's you know, and he what he does is he sets up like a scenario of some German soldiers, hassle her. He gets out of his car and goes, you guys leave her alone. And so she's grateful, and it's hard to get uh um tickets to her show. And he says, well, for thanking me. Oh, how can I thank you, and everything. And then you find out in the end, a little while later, that he actually set this up. um he so she says, well, yeah, you can come, to the show. I'll set you aside a table, this kind of thing. And he talks to her, and after the show, and what he wants is to photograph her, take nude photographs of her. And she's like, I don't know about that. And then he says, well, you either let me do it, or, and of course she's in the black market, she's in the resistance. In the woman in Africa also is in the resistance down there. And all three of the variations, she pretty much stays the same, but she's also in the resistance in Paris. She's kind of a Josephine Baker. I talked about her kind of character, so I kind of based it on And she's in the black market because they run a nightclub, you know, that kind of thing. It's some very interesting characters. I'll get to use two of my sister's names that I couldn't use in Autumn because their names are too exotic, so I'm gonna save them. And actually, when I wrote the play, I had when we were in um, a novel idea in the class, what we had to do was to we had to send something in. We had to send out a publication, something we had written. Basically, we had to do that, and so I had submitted something, and what I had done was I made it into a play. You know, where with a lot of not a lot of stage direction, but a lot of dialogue. And through the dialogue, these two people kind of fall in love. Kind of, they're fighting, but they kind of, fall in love. She realizes that, that they are actually, it's ridiculous. They're both in love with each other. It's the most, incredible thing ever. And one kind of interesting kind of sideline is that he has an uncle that works very, yeah, um, he has an uncle that works in Berlin around the powers that be. And his uncle is in the plot to actually kill Hitler. And he comes to see his nephew. He's like his favorite nephew because for some reason I can't remember. I think his father really isn't my main character in at this point. His father really doesn't go. It really is an artist of some kind. I'm really into the party sort of thing. He's not really into it, but this uncle is from his mother's side of the family, and they come from a long line of military men, and so they're very very close. They have a lot in common. He his uncle comes to visit him, and they kind of talk around it, because of course he can't, he don't want to implicate his nephew because he knows when it go, if it goes wrong, that his nephew could be mixed up in it. So basically, they're walking down the street, and he's kind of telling them, yeah, there's, sometimes people get sick, and sometimes you have to take care of things, and it's a lot of, my usual like a double talk. The end of that book is I mean, the end of that version, uh, they have to say, I think I touched on it before, they're trying to say goodbye to each other in a room full of people. She thinks he's gone, and she finds out he's really being held, by the Americans. He's been captured. She talks to him. There's a room full of people, and they're trying to say I love you. They're trying to say goodbye to each other, and acknowledge, their love and stuff. And it's a really it's really good writing in there, if I must say so myself, how these two people are trying to say the most mundane, innocent things, but really they're trying to say goodbye. And she also tries to tell him that, she's pregnant. And she says something like, well, I'm going to go to the country and, for a few months. And he kind of, and also too, and that one, she also has a daughter. I think that is when I made her lover Jewish, and because he's her vocal coach. I think that's why. Um, they meet again, but it's 20 some years later. The war's over. Their daughter is grown. She's basically walking down the street. He comes back to Paris after, he says he spends some time in prison. Um, because you're not really clear as to what his crimes might have been. And then that's when I had the you wussing out talk with myself. You excuse my language, I'm gonna use bad language. Michael, close your ears. But I pussied out. I thought, okay, no, 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 no. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. If you got balls enough to write, make the story up, put your name on it, you got balls enough to write it for real. So I patterned him after, well, I'll talk about that kind of stuff later. I'm just trying to do a little introduction to it now. Um, the story, well, the first time when it starts, when it very begins in the very beginning, I have her coming out of the subway, coming out of the metro, It's a Paris morning. It's kind of raining. It's kind of springy, and she has been out to the farm. That's really an orphanage where her little girl is she's hitting out her little girl and the children of her lover, because her lover no, not yet, not, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I do have that, I think. um and she, yeah, because his wife, actually, when they realize they're going to be transported, I think I talked about that. She actually brings her children to, her husband's mistress to take care of. um and they're her actual daughter, um uh half brothers and sisters. At first I had her lover and his wife actually go to Poland. They're Polish. That they actually go to Poland looking for his parents. Something's happened to her parents, or something's happened to his parents, and they're Polish, but they live in um Paris. And I actually, that's how they disappear. I have them go to Poland. They actually go to the ghetto and can't find anybody, and then that's when they get caught up in the thing and get caught up in the transport. Of course, they don't know what's going on in Poland. They just had some really suspicious, letters and notes and stuff from their family, and they decide to go back to investigate, and that's how they end up on a train going to the camp. um I really wasn't familiar with how the Vichy government and all that stuff actually worked in Paris at the time. After I learned a little bit more, I realized that they could have been transported east from France, actually. So I changed that they just get transported. And that's how it began. The first draft kind of began with her coming out of the subway, and she's gonna meet this man that she met in at first I had yeah, in Switzerland at a spa. And they've been writing back and forth. She doesn't really know. That's what we were talking about before reveals. She doesn't really know who he is, because it's before the war, so he's wearing civilian clothes. And they've been kind of dating. He's been kind of flirting with her, and she doesn't want to have sex with him, and I don't explain anything else. She's just that's how it begins. She's coming out of the metro subway thinking about, oh my gosh, he called and he's on his way through Paris, and I'm gonna get to see him, and this kind of thing. I changed it because I learned my lesson with Autumn about prologues. So I thought, okay, I don't want to go into a lot of their relationship while they're in uh Switzerland. I want to get, them just talking and flirting and dating and that kind of stuff. Um, so what I did was I decided what to do was to have him leave, knock on her door 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:20 a.m. in the morning, and tell her, look, I've got to go. And it's the end of September 1939, and he has to go because he's big in the German government. And they're getting ready to declare war, and so they probably called him on the phone and say, "Yo, bro, come on back to Germany." And so he does. And that's pretty much where I am now. That's all I've basically written, is the prologue part, that he comes to her door at night. He knocks on her hotel suite and tells her, "Look, I have to go." She's all upset because she hasn't um she didn't sleep with him. She's pushing him off, giving him a really hard time. So pretty much that's where I'm at now. I'm gonna try to figure out what I'm gonna do, where it's gonna go, but this time it'll be fun because you guys can watch. Autumn was already written, so pretty much I when I started this, but this time we'll be able to take the journey pretty much together, and I'll tell you a little more about him, about her, and we'll go on from there. So yeah, I'm kind of tired. It's time to eat something. My face is kind of getting kind of swollen because I'm really kind of tired. So um, for now, good night.